Down, 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 down. Well, I tell you, there is no rest when it comes to what happens in professional wrestling. Am I right, folks? And yeah, it looks like this virtual background stuff isn't going to work, so I might turn this up. But anyway, hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another impromptu but simple ATW view. I, of course, am the simple man, Noah Foster, representing my family, ATW, who's out doing all their own things. We don't necessarily, have all the same agendas as, again, we're just international family professional wrestling fans, the then, the now, and forever, the indifferent, you name it. That being said, I'm just going to give you some brief thoughts that's happened this past week in all things wrestling, as we also look at what's ahead for this week in all things wrestling. So I do hope that you enjoy the conversation. And as I try and get my room in order, hold on, let me try and put the camera. I tell you, cameras aren't as well as they used to be. Let's go ahead and just have a brief chit chat, shall we? So let's go ahead and look back at last week. Last week, of course, we have all the standard stuff, but the major thing that definitely was the turning point for me last week was, of course, AEW. AEW Dynamite, of course, it was their go-home show, and they knocked it out of the park as we have pretty much a pay-per-view level setup of a show and an all-elite week of professional wrestling this week. As, of course, this week will be their Grand Slam Dynamite event from Offer Ash Stadium. But also it was learned that AEW Rampage will also be Rampage Grand Slam, 2 hours. 4 hours of AEW live professional wrestling madness. Just call it that. Simple as that. In other news, before I talk about this card and everything, last week we also had the start of the G1 Climax 31, where the topic here is Max Max. I'm not sure what Max Max means, unless it's really about maxing what you think is potentially the maximum of your capabilities, but I digress. That being said, the G1 Climax had an incredible start this past weekend with 2 days of incredible action, where we've already had shockers. Last year's winner losing his opener to Kota Ibushi, Lorraine to make a return. And of course, Tomoshi, always the G1 MVP, gave us an absolute near to a draw classic with Shingo Takagi. Do you have your winners picked? What is your thoughts to G1 so far? Love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. We also have Victory Road this week that was showcased with all the championship going line except for the Knockouts Championship. But of course, we already know what's to come maybe before that as we get closer to Bound for Glory. That being said, Victory Road was a great show, a lot of great variety, a lot of great professional wrestling and competition. Very surprised about the impromptu 5-way that I think really was the way to maybe pick, I don't know, the next number one contender for the X Division title. Speaking of the X Division title, Josh Alexander once again proved, and in my opinion, I think exemplified why he is maybe the greatest X Division champion of all time, as Josh Alexander was successful in retaining his X Division championship against Chris Sabin, of course, via the C4 Spike pile driver in the very end. But what really got me going was afterwards, it was Chris Sabin maybe wishing some words of wisdom or maybe some advice to the walking weapon. And while, of course, we don't necessarily hear it, something tells me I knew where this was going. And it really showed out in the main event. And I got to say this right now. Inevitable is a general term that is not about necessarily what, it is when. But when does not have a predetermined date. This was proven here when Ace Austin pulled all the tricks out of the book, including the ace up his sleeve, literally. Paper cuts aside, the near fold and impromptu near falls galore alone. It was Christian Cage once again proved outworking and outsmarting everyone in this case, as Madman Florida did come into play here countless times. That Christian Cage was able to successfully retain the Impact World Championship via spear kill switch combination. But afterwards, before we go off the air, Josh Alexander comes out. We've seen the subtle face-to-faces with the X Division champion and the Impact World champion to a degree. It really came ahead here as he came into the ring, looked at that belt, he looked at Christian Cage, held up the X Division title, and simply said 2 words. Option C. There you have it. It's finally happening. Josh Alexander will now try to ascend Impact Wrestling and the X Division, what it stands for, by cashing in option C, thus vacating the X Division Championship and going after now the Impact Heavyweight Championship. So our main event for Bound for Glory is set. It will be Christian Cage defending the Impact Heavyweight Championship against the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. When I think about Christian Cage and the basically the proverb he stands for about outworking everyone. If there's one person that could potentially outwork him, I feel like it is Christian Cage. I gotta be honest. And I am really, really looking forward to this match. Wrestling galore all throughout the place. The NWA continues to redefine themselves. Camille attacking Melina. I was shocked by that. And things continue to move in the tag team division. And by any means necessary will be, of course, the next special in October, as literally Nick Aldis and Trevor Murdoch shared a humility stand with one another in the name of Harley Race and the NWA 10 pounds of gold. So I'm very curious what awaits there. Will we get Nick Aldis versus Trevor Murdoch for the title? Or will maybe the man that's already challenging him for it, Jack Stain, after he gets past maybe Crimson, also did this title, Trevor Murdoch? Things are really being redefined in the NWA. By the way, the hot mess is there. Everyone, good luck and watch out. But I digress. We also, of course, had a GCW event this past weekend as Minoru Suzuki, he took on, of course, Jonathan Gresham in an absolute technical classic. If you have a chance, I highly suggest you go watch it. Also, we learned that Minoru Suzuki will be taking on Nick freaking Gage. So I'm going to read off these men their last rites because I'm not sure who's the more dangerous one here or who necessarily is going to be, I don't know, the more lethal and violent towards the other, but yeesh. That's all I got to say about that. So that covers like the minimum things in all things wrestling. New Japan also on New Japan Strong on Saturday night with live audiences. Very good show. Will Ospreay will now defend his title against Carl Fredericks in Texas. Tomoyoshi, of course, took on Alex Coughlin. But let's go ahead and talk about the other stuff. So first off, let's go ahead and look at the big W. They continue to be what they are, sports entertainment. But at least NXT UK gives us a closest form of professional wrestling. I really enjoyed this week's show where, of course, the NXT UK Tag Team Championships defended by Pretty Deadly was against the Gallus Boys in Joe and Mark Coffey. Very good competitive title bout, very close near fall exchanges. But unfortunately, it was spilled milk and the tag team tenacity of Pretty Deadly that got the win in the end, and just Joe Coffey's luck continues to just fall short. As the age of the Zaw was finally ushered in, we now know who potentially challenge him for the NXT UK Championship. It will either be A-Kid, the inaugural Heritage Cup winner, Rampage Brown winning that best of 3 against Joe Coffey, or it will be Nathan Frazier, who may have fell out of the Heritage Cup, but he is a young, youthful up-and-comer that is taking the opportunity where it lies. So we have a Triple Threat #1 Contenders match next week. Things keep moving around and getting very intense in the women's division as well, as Lily McKenzie defends the honor of Michael Satomura again in succession, successfully beating at the very game Stevie Turner, who was brought back down to this reality. But it seems that NXT UK might have a bigger problem on their hands with the top Genjin, as Blair Davenport once again came out and made a statement attacking Stevie Turner while she's suspended. She simply says, reinstate me, or more of the people you like are going to end up this way. So since Skyline and Johnny State's got a tough decision on their hands. Talk about Battle of the Tricksters too, with the Heritage Cup going on, as the scum of the earth, Kenny Williams, took on, of course, Supernova 11 Noam Da. And literally these guys put out every trick between each other, whether it was pull the tides, dirty heelers tactics, the water ball even coming into play, some roll up, some very damaging focus on each other's legs. But Saw Samuels underneath the ring gave Nolan Dar the moment he needed around 5 to hit the Nova Rolla and move forward. We have one half of our final set for the Heritage Cup. He now waits if he's going to face either Theoman or Wolfgang. Very interesting match coming up the following week. While Isla Dawn continues her Dark Ritual now attacking something of the fashionista. I'm not exactly sure where that's going. And Symbiosis, they fell short to the impromptu trio of Ashton Smith and Oliver Carter and the wild Saxton Huxton. So a very good show. It always is so much delivered in these hour shows. When I talk about AEW, NXT UK, NWA, you name it. So let's go ahead now and talk about the big boys in the room. We'll start with the controversial one. NXT officially ushered in the new era. NXT 2.0. I hate the color scheme. Bobby Roode once said it best. Not my NXT. If this is what WWE fans want, as far as they want maybe more WWE Sports Entertainment Classic type content, where you're getting like something similar to maybe what Raw was 2 hours, This is the closest thing you're going to get to it because it ended with a wedding. But I'll say this, that wedding was not a car crash. It was humorous. And overall, it was the kind of team I would expect from WWE that sort of, brings what the fans want if you're, that type of person. The fact they had literally Dexter Lumis say his first two words being "I do," though. Okay, nerd. But I do love the fact that Tommaso Ciampa is once again united with Goldie and is the new NXT champion, and it is the current Triple H title. Though someone tells me that might not last too long. LA Knight falling 2 losses in a row, though, and Kyle O'Reilly mysteriously taken out. I don't know. I can imagine why people in NXT are literally, walking across gracefully like there's a minefield. Apparently, it's a skeleton crew that's working in NXT as well. So I wish all the best for everybody in NXT. Mandy Rose, new look, new attitude. Hey, maybe she'll be a more serious wrestler. We'll have to wait and see. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the fun stuff, shall we? I already talked about lightly the G1 Climax, and yes, I will continue to cover that this week, as of course we have action coming up Thursday morning and Friday morning. But before that, we got to talk about All Elite Wrestling. So All Elite Wrestling went big in their go-home last week, setting up Offer Ash Stadium's Grand Slam show, and I will now bring forward to you that very card. I still can't believe half this stuff is happening. We are going to see the dream match between Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson. Cody Rhodes and Malachi Black for new hostilities, and we wonder, will they be done with each other this time? CM Punk will give a live interview 48 hours before his first TV match in 7 years against Powerful Hobbs that was so he was on commentary. There's a reason why that commentary table is not used in AEW, folks. That table is not gimmick. Ouch. MJF has made it extremely personal, botch, attacking the name and family pride of one Brian Pillman Jr., literally casting down the Pillman name and his mother, too. Talk about a dark side brought to light. And I'm sure Brian Pillman is going to look to extinguish this venom from that at Offer Ash Stadium. We also, of course, will have FTR take on Sting and Darby Allin after Shawn Spears and the Pinnacle and Tully Blanchard try to take the very identity of Sting and Darby Allin, wiping away what makes them themselves. Incredible grudge match, though, and continued great in-ring psychology by the chairman, Shawn Spears, whenever he is in wrestling. And, of course, we also have Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, taking on Ruby. So it's a very catchy song, by the way. If y'all haven't listened to her post-scrum conversation from All Out and why she's here and why she's happy to be here and what she hopes to do here, seriously, go listen to it. And Talk is Jericho. Cheap plugs. I respect those. So we have a very full pay-per-view level show this week. They truly went, no pun intended, all out. It's almost like a mini All Out 2 to a degree. And ironically, that's just Wednesday night. As I said at the very beginning, we also have Friday night, a 2-hour Rampage special, including but not limited to what you see at the following. After the Bunny, yay Allie, was freaking schoolgirled by Anna Jay. Penelope Ford got a 1-up and literally knocked both Anna Jay and Ty Conti out. So now Anna Jay, the Queen, will try to continue her single momentum, taking on the super bad girl, Penelope Ford. I don't expect the Bunny or Ty Conti to be very far away either. In an epic clash after their successful title defense, the risk of Penta's mask against Butcher and the Blade, the successful Lucha Brothers take it to the Hardy family office in 8-man action, potentially maybe tagging with their next challengers. People say this is long overdue, as Proud and Powerful Santana Ortiz tag with the Lucha Brothers with Alex Cabajantes to take on with Matt Hardy and the Bunny in their corner, Butcher and the Blade and Private Party. In a lights-out match after the wild angle and the disrespect in the Suzuki incident that I saw live in Cincinnati where they cut off his feet for the Casamina Ray, it now will be John Moxley and Kingston taking on the Suzuki Gun Army as Lance and Minoru Suzuki come back together as a tag team in a lights-out match. Violence will be showcased, folks. Stay tuned. And again, after 7 years, CM Punk takes on his first TV match with Powerhouse Will Hobbs and Hook in his corner. And I would not count out Hook one day going after CM Punk. He did an effective Dragon Sleeper shades to Skull End by Sonata. Kid's definitely got some potential. After Dan Lambert once again chastised the wrestling universe and AEW and literally had the Men of the Year with him and all these great, incredible athletes of America's Top Team, including Paige Sagat, it has now been made official, as Chris Jericho called out, who's on top. That was a hilarious segment. And another MMA guy himself who's undefeated. He and Jake Hager will now take on the Man of the Year, and Dan Lambert will be in their corner. Again, Dan Lambert is one of those guys that just has a punchable face. It wouldn't surprise me if Jericho tries to Jews affect him. but I'm looking forward to this tag match as well. And the Super Click is back as Adam Cole, baby, after an incredible ring debut of Frank Kazarian last week, will now team up again with the Young Bucks to take on the trio of Christian Cage and Jurassic Express. After he basically talked about that the Super Elite is the strongest faction in all of AEW, in all of pro wrestling. We're going to put that to the test and see if the boys rolling together again can get it done. And it would not surprise me if more is added, but that is everything known up to this point. And I gotta say, this week alone, Wednesday and Friday, is enough of a reason to be excited as a professional wrestling fan. But in case that wasn't enough for you, towards what AEW is to the professional wrestling industry, doing their own thing, reviving that excitement, that love, that passion, that respect for professional wrestling, it became known today that AEW has officially partnered with the Owen Hart Foundation in honor of the world-renowned, forever immortalized and remembered Owen Hart. As you can see here, they will also be doing a tournament called the Owen Hart Cup Tournament, a collaboration that will be an annual special here, where the winner will receive a cup known as the Owen. And also we will have production and distribution of goods, and also there will be coronation as well, being part of the new AEW console video game. It says a lot when you really think about that the very first day this company came into existence, it was Bret the Hitman Hart that literally presented the AEW World Championship. And considering the connection that Bret and Chris Jericho have all the way back to professional wrestling roots and the respect that they have for Owen Hart and Tony Khan being a true wrestling fan, I think this is something truly wonderful that goes beyond the words you just saw in that screenshot. And when I think about the spirit of Owen Hart and who can take this cup, there are so many names in AEW I could think of that exemplify that I think could really take this thing. You got that guy that's all about himself, but backs him up in the ring with how good he is, MJF. You got the in-ring technician styling of somebody like Sean Spears. You got that relentless, never say die tenacity about Darby Allin. And then you have that standout that people might not really think about at first, but you see him go and he just takes your breath away because he's so damn good and he's got so much potential in the likes of Jungle Boy. And these were just a few names that I was just spawning around and so much more. As of course, the wrestling community was brought to humility at the word of this news. So again, congratulations to AEW pulling this off. As we come up tonight's AEW Dark Elevation, I must say I'm very impressed with Masha Slamovich and what she brought forward against Hikaru Shida. And whether you like QT or not, he is a wrestler that is a good wrestler, as he and Dustin finally come ahead in the battle of the Natural Nightmares that truly showed how personal this felt. And in the end, the Natural won with the final reckoning, but also leaving one lasting mark on QT's area with the unnatural kick. Ouch, man. But I digress. That being said, this has just been a simple ATW impromptu, giving you a brief outlook on all things wrestling. So what has been exciting you lately? What are you most pondering about? What are you still questioning? Are you a fan of any of this? Have you known or checked out or even tried to be a fan of any of this? Are you a fan of pro wrestling? Are you new, old, return, lapse? What has brought your insight maybe to just this simple video and the simple YouTube channel? I'd like to hear your thoughts, connect with you down below. And again, folks, if you want to know more about me, know this. I'm just a simple man and a lifelong fan of wrestling, not just Push the Team. So again, if you want to connect with me more, if you want to even collab, maybe talk wrestling with me, and shout out to Jeff Meacham Network, go follow his recap following Monday Night Raw tonight. Follow me on Twitter, keep following me here on YouTube, or follow me on Instagram at Foster1916. It's all the same. As always, I'd like to close. There are no winners, there are no losers, there are no best. They're just fans with opinions for this passion we all share. At the end of the day, folks, respect one another and support each other, and just enjoy life and enjoy wrestling. You don't necessarily have to like the same thing as another person, but you don't have to chastise them in the way they like it too. Don't be a troll. Don't be an idiot. Don't be a bully. Don't be a walking PR propaganda nonsense machine that's all about yourself. Be humble. Bring a positive insight to professional wrestling. Be you. Be true. Simple as that. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in to this simple ATW view on all things wrestling. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend. Hit the bell notification vehicles on this channel, whether recorded or on demand. Hit the subscribe button. Help me keep growing. And shout out to all 260 of you that's been with me on this fun youth career creators journey. It's not landing anytime soon. For the entire ATW family, you'll find their tags in the link down below. I thank you all for tuning in. And until the next video, stay safe, be positive, not COVID positive. Support my friends at NoDQ, the Jeff Beecham Network, the Greg Cherry Brand, Cindy G, Teddy Turnbuckle, my ATW family, FTW, the list goes on and on. All the teams of wrestling started by Mark the Griff Reviews and so much more. And I'll see you next time for something in all things wrestling.